less than a decade. This is the way I live. Young boy still pushing big whips. Get money, lay low, ain't you?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while. Welcome back to CC. It's your boy Shostin, and we're going to be talking about the best things going on in esports right now. I hope you guys had a great past couple of weeks. It's been a little while from me. I had a documentary come out called Passion Pit. Link in the description if you want to check it out. But enough of my yapping. Let's hop straight into what's going on in esports. Switching over to Call of Duty, I've got my boy Nick Rich on the line again. He's my go-to Call of Duty expert nowadays, and I've been watching the past couple of weekends of Call of Duty. So, Nick, please fill us all in. What's the major takeaways that we've seen in the CDL so far?
We absolutely have to kick things off by talking about the play Optic made on Karachi Control. If you didn't tune in this past weekend, or you live under a rock and didn't see it on Twitter, they were down in lives 3-14 on Karachi Control, and they still had to cap that B point. And I think it was Pred who was able to find 2 in the hill, clear things out. And obviously, when you have fresh spawners across the map, you're going to have an opportunity to hop on that point and just clear it out. But
Awakening can find 1, only 4 lives remaining now for Optic. Texas make it 3. And this might be game. Pred and Dashi can find a couple of kills, but 12 seconds to go. You've got to be perfect here from Optic. Texas, they need to get across pretty much unscathed. Into the point we go. There's still potential here from Optic.
I think I might hear a cruise missile in the sky. I think Awakening might have gone on this spree right now, but no control and no dice. 3 players on the point. They have the extra kill. It's a 3v3.
Gotta go. You gotta go if you're Rocket. You're locking it down. If you're Optic, Texas, make it 1 kill from Shotzi. Linz, can he find the clean up here? It's Dashi to find 1 more. Can they lock it in time? It's a 3 versus 12 in the end from Optic. Round number 5 goes their way. Head in your hands moment for Rocker. Series on our hands now. Optic, Texas. Send us to a map 4.
one of the most crazy things I've seen in the CDL era was just a 3 versus 14 round of Control being clutched up. You never really see that round being won when lives are that big of a deficit. So there's been a lot of very competitive matches ever since Major 1. I feel like the skill gap has tightened even more amongst the top teams, and especially in like the middle and the bottom of the pack as well. Toronto Ultra is just continuing their dominance. When you look at these bottom 7 teams, if you look who's in 6th place and then all the way to 12th, there's only a 30-point spread between those bottom 7 teams. So all of those placements, all of these upcoming series are going to be really, really important, especially for teams like Miami Heretics, Los Angeles Guerrillas, who see themselves like in the middle of the pack, as obviously you're working towards securing a champs spot later this year. With that being said, and all of these teams being so close together, I picked out 3 matches to watch for this upcoming weekend. You have Las Vegas Legion going up against Boston Breach. They're very, very close in the standings. That's going to be a very significant swing game, as well as Los Angeles Guerrillas and Seattle Surge. And then to end the weekend on Sunday, you have the battle of the 1 and 2 seeds, Atlanta FaZe versus Toronto Ultra. I think everybody's going to have their eyes on that one.
All right, cool. Well, Nick, thank you so much for hopping on and talking some Call of Duty with me. And just a few more weeks of matches, and then we got Major 2 in Fort Lauderdale. Spring break, baby.
Absolutely. It's going to be lit.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Switching over to everyone's favorite MOBA, I got HeyCam Games on the line. Cameron, how you doing? What's up?
Doing great. Glad that LCS is almost finally back after the 3-week unprecedented break.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. A long break in the middle of the season. Talk to me about that break and maybe how it affects some teams, in your opinion.
So in the grand scheme of it all, there's our commissioner, our glorious commissioner, Mark Zimmerman, is posing it to us with the fact that if we didn't take this 3-week break, that our league, having less teams, would be finishing much earlier than a lot of the other teams that will be heading to MSI, which would possibly put NA at a competitive disadvantage, as they wouldn't be playing any actual professional games for weeks until MSI, whereas typically Korea finishes up their season and leads directly into MSI. So good looking out, Commish. But the truth of it all is that Riot Games' favorite son is Valorant. And the VCT kicked off 2 weeks ago. They wanted the entire studio to themselves, and they got it. VCT will be going on this weekend while LCS is in session. And we've gotten little hints here and there as to how the LCS studio is going to look much different, as Valorant still will have the main stage. But apparently there's a second sound stage where they're setting up sort of a cage match for LCS. So I'm looking forward to a setup that is not too dissimilar from what you would see in the Call of Duty Passion Pit. I want to see PCs back to back to where you could hear some shit talking, but that doesn't necessarily work in, MOBA gaming because there's a lot of strategizing that goes on. You want to be sure that you can't hear your opponent can't hear you.
I saw some people talking about the timing of the LCS spring playoffs. It's landing on Easter weekend. People were saying, oh, it could have been just a 2-week break instead of a 3-week break. Do you see any sort of, qualms with that in your opinion?
So absolutely. Outside of people's, religious obligations or familial obligations, they're just going to be, I think, less people who are going to be attached to their computers from a viewership perspective. So I think it's kind of a miscue to have it on Easter Sunday. I know that the former commissioner, John Needham, he said last year, I think it also landed on Easter Sunday. And he was like, total miscue. We don't want that to happen again. But it's happening again. So maybe the viewership fall wasn't that big of a deal that they saw, but they're clearly, disrespecting Easter.
So we were talking a little bit about some mishaps that happened overseas in League of Legends. What's going on there? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the LCK, the Korea League, suffered various DDoS attacks over this past week. And so much so that LCK published that all of their matches are going to have to be pre-recorded for the next week because they just can't get out of the way of these DDoS attacks. It's kind of funny because you would think that in studio it would be more of a LAN setup, and it's not the stream that's being DDoSed. It's very much the integrity of the game that is being attacked. So there's clear technical difficulties there. I thought it was personally kind of funny because I haven't heard of widespread DDoS attacks in esports in many years. This is something that really takes me back to, game battles, 2v2 search and destroy for my Call of Duty folk. There was a T1 match that was supposed to start at 3 a.m. Eastern that ended up not being resumed until 9 a.m. Eastern. So for our NA fans who are trying to watch some Korea League of Legends, rest in peace to your sleep schedule.
All right, I think that covers just about everything for League of Legends. Hey, Cam, thank you so much for hopping on again. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hopping over to Rocket League, my favorite car and soccer ball game. I got my boy Spaceman on the Discord call to talk about some Rocket League. So far in 2024, we've had 2 open qualifiers with varying results. We've got one more open qualifier, 3 this coming weekend. Spaceman, how's it been going? Tell me about Rocket League. What's been going on?
It's been a crazy season. We ended on a high note, maybe the best high note possible for the esport at the end of last year. Worlds was this massive success. All the players are playing some of the best Rocket League we've ever seen. The game is evolving, the meta has changed, and going into this season, the expectations were the highest, and it just meant that we had to make the competition as chaotic as possible through the open quals, and now we come down at the end of the road here before our final stop before Copenhagen, the major coming up. One more weekend of gameplay to get to. Top 16 Swiss is going to be difficult, but we are seeing, again, a new floor in Rocket League be set every single weekend. The top teams from the pro side, from G2 down to Gen G, Pirates on a Boat, OG. I mean, you look across the board, there are some legacy organizations in North America, in Europe, in APAC, OCE, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa. Like, we are entering another prime, another golden age in Rocket League. And it's just getting more and more intense every single weekend. So we're in for what could be a very chaotic and disastrous for some squads final weekend of gameplay before the major.
Yeah, so the first 2 open qualifiers, we had G2 finishing first. Open qualifier 3, what are sort of the implications for the results of this weekend for the upcoming major in Copenhagen?
Really, it's a shakeup for if you're looking at teams in NA specifically because of the point differentials that are so close between like 3rd and 4th. There's only going to be 4 teams per region that get to go, or excuse me, for NA and EU that get to go to the major. And that means that there's obviously, by default, not a lot of spots there were last year. So if you're not a team like G2, who after back-to-back regional wins has locked in their place for Copenhagen, this weekend means everybody else has to fight for their spot to qualify as well. So with 3 spots up for grabs, we're looking at the likes of a Gen G, a potential SSG, Luminosity, headed by Reddles, currently fighting for their 4th spot to get into the major. Same thing over in Europe, where it's a little bit different, a little bit more of a clear cut, like one in the rest of the competition with Carmi leading the charge. This weekend is quite literally chaotic, and it's going to be the biggest test these players have had so far, I think, in a couple years, because there are so limited spots for the major. This weekend is the difference between going to play for hundreds of thousands of dollars and proving on the international stage what the resume means and having like a 2-month break. It's going to be tough. So expect a lot of sad tweets, unfortunately, because people are not going to be holding back this year.
Sweet. Well, it sounds like the story's, you know, setting up to be a banger for the first major in Copenhagen. Spaceman, I'm looking forward to the action for Rocket League this weekend, and I appreciate you hopping on.
It's going to be a fun one. I can't wait. Enjoy the show, man.
Thank you so much to these beautiful guests for hopping on the show and talking about their favorite esports. A lot has been going on in esports, but I wanted to keep this short and concise because that's what I love for you people. I want to educate you in the shortest and quickest amount of time as possible. More news next week as we talk about other esports. A lot of stuff going on in March in our ecosystem, so stay tuned, and I'll be talking about it very soon. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much again. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Way I live, young boy still pushing.